Good morning. Good morning. Well, hopefully everybody can hear me. I am in a restaurant where I drink my coffee in the morning. Cheers. And it's above a river. I'm going to put the link to join the call. And as I mentioned, I'm not really in the mood to do a lot of talking today. I was prepared to listen, but my guest is a no-show. So instead, I will do a live stream. So I just posted the link to StreamYard. You need to use Chrome. It will only allow you to come on if you have Chrome. So if you have a Mac, you can still use Chrome when you have a Mac. It just has to be the Mac version, because I have it on mine. Well, what a week in the markets for anybody who trades. Yeah, I've been helping quite a few people navigate this. And I'm not claiming to be an expert in anything, just somebody who's learned as they've self-educated, as they say. You get punched in the face enough times, you learn to put up defenses. That's what I've learned. And, you know, when you start trading, you think, oh, I'm going to make $1 million. Oh, it's going to be so easy, blah, blah, blah. And then you get punched. It's like joining a tank full of sharks and piranha. And if you don't know how to swim or how to defend yourself or how to fight or how to eat, well, you're in trouble. Let me just see here. I'm going to just check the connection. Yeah, I'm going to have to get a new computer at some point. Yeah, the electronics, it's amazing how they build in planned obsolescence with their upgrades. So this computer I'm on now, it's the first time I'm trying this on a live stream. I've been using my Mac before. The problem is the Mac microphone is going. And the thing I do not like about MacBooks is they don't have ports and plugins for microphones or speakers, or, they rely, I think, on maybe Bluetooth for a lot of this stuff. But it's kind of like, if that doesn't work, come on, computer. Okay. So I'll just sit here and drink my coffee until somebody joins, or not. I'll show real quick the river. This is the river that goes to the waterfall that was used in the movie Romancing the Stone. It's a beautiful place. Love it here. I've been here 3 months now, and I'm leaving soon. So there's the river. So that place was for sale last time I was here. A bunch of, if you like the sound of water, yeah, so I have my coffee here every morning. And we'll work here for a couple hours in the morning as well. The only problem is they don't have electricity here. So you know. Okay, so the link to join is in the chat. And I will also put it in the comments. Actually, there are no comments because it's a live stream. There's only the chat, which are the comments. It's been a while since I've done a live stream. I used to do live streams quite a bit because they're easier. You don't have to go through and edit it, which is a pain in the balls. Yeah, the guy who was supposed to come on supposedly was a member of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, a long time ago. And Dan and I spoke to him about 6 months ago. And it's taken this long to even set up a call. There's also a couple other people that I've been trying to talk to, but I really don't care. People want to chat, we can chat. If they don't, I don't care. It's not how I make my money. It's not how I do it for entertainment and for learning, social, that type of thing. In fact, I spend less and less time on these platforms. I just got another one or two of my videos were just pulled by YouTube for supposedly their version of medical misinformation, because I'm telling people don't take the juice, man. And if you're stupid enough not to listen, then hey, we all make mistakes. Hopefully they don't kill us. Yeah, who was it? It's either Dr. Malone or Dr. Pierre Corey. I just don't remember. It was on Twitter. And they posted information that shows the death rates going like this. And this joker from Boston, he goes, well, nobody in my family, nobody in my friends are sick. I mean, count yourself fortunate. But to not believe something just because it hasn't happened to you, it's pretty ignorant. And you're also tempting fate. And that's why I wrote back to the guy saying, I wouldn't be so cavalier, man. Because back in the late 70s, there was a movie called The Fog. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I went to the movie alone. It was like the matinee, the noontime matinee, so it was only like $1. And I was the only one in the theater, and I watched the movie alone. It's a pretty scary movie for a small kid. And I remember at the end of the movie, the creeps were leaving. They came back, they took their gold, they were walking out with their gold that they were all killed for originally. And the priest is like crying and sobbing, saying, why not take me? Why not kill me? And the fog had already gone. But then, as you think the movie's leaving, all of a sudden the fog comes back into the church, and you just see the sickle coming down. And that was the end of the movie, if I remember correctly. Never tempt fate. Never. Bad policy. It's like Bruce Willis in Die Hard when he's like under the tables trying to get away from the guy shooting him. And the guy, one of them runs out of ammo. I think it was Bruce Willis, and he reloads. And the guy, speaking in a German accent, he's like, "Take my advice. When you kill, you kill. When you love, you love. When you shoot, you shoot." And Bruce Willis is like, "Thanks for the advice." Shoots through the table. So, that's it. This coffee, the guy who owns this restaurant and the hotel, he bought it. I don't know. I haven't talked to him. I just hear rumors. So I heard he bought it just because he had to do something with his money. He has a coffee plantation, and I guess the money is good in coffee. But actually, this area, if you see any of my other videos, I walk around, and this is, I don't remember the percentages anymore. I think 80% of either the world's coffee or North America's coffee comes from Veracruz. Coffee plants everywhere. It makes for beautiful walking because the plants are attractive enough, but it's greenery, and it's usually very peaceful areas. A lot of water in this area. A lot of water. It rains every day, and the elevation. So I didn't know this, but coffee has to be above a certain elevation, but not so high. So it's a sweet spot, and this area of Veracruz, it's like perfect conditions for coffee. But the thing is, the coffee in this place is terrible. Terrible. When I first came here, they gave me a coffee machine in the room, so I bought some coffee and I make it. And the way I make it, it's not so bad, but whoever's making the coffee here, and I've told them like multiple times, like, the coffee's terrible. I still drink it because I need my fix, and it's free. So I'm a sucker for free. Not really free, it's part of the package. Yeah, so Day of the Dead, I posted on my Instagram page some photos. The creeps come out at night, or is it the freaks? The freaks come out at night. So everywhere now you're seeing these freaky skeletons popping up all over Mexico for the Day of the Dead. And yeah, very, very important holiday here, or big festival. In fact, where I am, I originally some people invited me to come and visit them in Veracruz. Hey, Amy. Yeah, free. Did you ever do anything with your hedging? I hope. We're starting to, I forget what I was just saying, but we're starting to approach the point now where we're getting conflicting opinions about what's happening. But what could be different this time? The sale to take place. Okay. Yeah, it's all right. Well, if there's anything I can do, you you can feel free to contact me by email. But this is not the same world it was just 3 years ago. Definitely not 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Here's a very interesting story. Oh, you're really brave. Wow. What state do you live in, Amy? I'm just curious. Well, yeah. One of the reasons, and I've told this maybe before, one of the reasons why I did as much traveling as I did is the U.S. dollar was strong around the world. With the advent of the internet and all these travel apps, Alabama, wow. My nephew, who I've had on my live stream, he's in Alabama. He's going to medical school there. Great kid. My sister's son. Yeah, went to University of Alabama, and I went down and visited. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to explore much. Tennessee. Yeah, Tennessee. That should sell. I mean, Tennessee has been booming over the last 10 years. He is in the middle of nowhere, in the northeast corner of the state. I don't even remember the name of the town. And it's one of the state schools. And he decided to go. He deferred. I don't want to tell his whole story because I don't want him to. I don't know how much he wants, but he's a great kid, and he basically deferred, and then the whole COVID thing was he refused to get jabbed, and so he couldn't go certain places because he wouldn't conform. Great, like I said, great kid. So I started traveling because I knew at some point it was going to come to an end. I knew at some point the U.S. dollar was going to lose significant value, and it was going to make everything more expensive. So, and also when I was doing it, is before everybody in the world was traveling. No, he's from New Hampshire, but it's a strange story. It's one of his best friends had a brother who was going to the University of Alabama, and when he went to college there, University of Alabama was making a very strong push to get kids from the Northeast to come to Alabama. So they were giving them free school because they wanted to diversify. And so my nephew is like me, free. So he's like, free college? Okay. So anytime you can get free, I took free education. Anytime I can get education for free, I don't care if I have to change all my plan. I go. Free education. And sometimes free education is not the education you want to get, but it is free. But sometimes it's painful. So I was, there's a lovely lovely church here, built in the 1500s. Well, the church itself's not lovely, but I think the community is really nice the way they do it. They have a lot of music. It's amazing, 7 p.m. on Sunday night, and you have these people coming in. It's a packed house every night. And it's I was in there a month ago, and I was feeling very irritable, like I wanted to rip somebody's head off. And I'm sitting there seething, and I hate that feeling. Usually I go out for a walk or a run, drop, do push-ups, something to burn off that energy so that it doesn't, you know, that energy doesn't get used in a bad way. And I was sitting there and I was just, talking to God in my own head, waiting for the mass to start. And it was like, there's a scene from Forrest Gump where Lieutenant Dan, the guy with no legs, he's up on the mast of the boat. And he's like, the hurricane comes and he's like chastising God, which you never really want to do, in my opinion. So I wasn't chastised, but I was having a conversation. I was just letting him know that I was really not happy with, sometimes you pray, you ponder, you contemplate, you meditate, you do whatever you do, and you're just not getting a solution. You're not getting an answer. It's not coming. And for whatever reason, things don't always come in our time frame, right? Sometimes just because we want something doesn't mean we get it. And it's an important lesson that we all have to learn. And so I was aware of that, but I still was angry that I couldn't come up with a solution to a dilemma that had been bothering me for quite a while. And I had been just holding and waiting, saying, okay, the solution will come when it's, and finally, right when the mass started, and they have this wonderful music at this church. It makes the mass like twice as long, but they do a great job. In fact, I think I posted some of it online. And all of a sudden, the epiphany came. And I was like, whoa. It's like lightning, right? Zing. And so after the mass, I'm walking back, it's a walk back to my hotel. And I'm walking back. And the next day, I started taking action. And, you never really know if, your action is good action or not and I still don't know. But I decided to act on it. I finally got the sign in my own mind that I just had to act. And so I started acting and started moving. And so far, I think it's been the right decision. Time will tell. But that's what happens. Sometimes, it's nothing. And one of the prayers I say frequently is the Serenity Prayer. And while it's not a formal prayer, I find it helpful. And the version I use, it's, Dear Lord, please grant me the serenity to accept those things that I cannot change, the courage and the strength to change those things that I can, and the wisdom, sweet Jesus, the wisdom to know the difference, knowing the difference. And that's half the battle. I mean, I hate making mistakes. And I also hate wasting my time and energy, especially as I get older, because you never know when your time is up. So we'll see, one day at a time. That's all I try to focus on. Yep. I remember in many challenging, whenever I've challenged myself, yeah, perfectionism. Yeah, well, I don't have to worry about that. But I remember looking back, and anytime I challenge myself, a lot of times physically, whether it's, or even mentally, sometimes you can't look too far out. You just have to focus on the here and now. Okay, let me take care of this task. Okay, when I'm done with this, I'm going to go on to this. And then it helps me basically focus on, you know, not worrying about things that are not relevant. As the Serenity Prayer says, you know, you control what you can control. And the rest, you just have to learn to just let it go. Learn to let it go. And when I was younger, I did not know how to do that. Did not know how. Just, it was incapable. You know, over the years of getting hammered by certain things, you learn. It's like the saying they say that the tree that doesn't bend breaks. And I think that's true. I think that's why so many people drop dead of heart attacks and strokes, besides the Jabberino. Hey, big fella, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, I'm okay. Yep, every day is a blessing. Yeah, I've been here in the hills of Veracruz for over 3 months now, and I'm just about to head out. And there's actually there's actually some things I'm going to try to see on the way back to Mexico City. I've got to go to Mexico City because I'm heading back to the beach for the winter. And it's starting to get cold here now at night. And last time I was here was almost 3 years ago now, and it was in January, through January 2020, and at nighttime it gets cold because I'm in a rustic hotel. I'm just grateful they have hot water and electricity, but they don't have heat, and my room's kind of a joke. I mean, there's like holes to the outside, so bugs are coming in and cold air or hot air. So I do have a fan though. So on hot days I put on the fan. But when I was in Mexico City, I got really sick. I must have gotten COVID or whatever it was when I was flying back to Mexico City in end of March. And I remember I was out for my morning walk and I was starting to get vertigo. And, probably looked like I was drunk because I'm trying to compensate for the vertigo. Felt like I was walking in one of those fun houses on a sloped stair. And I came to the park and I sat on the bench and I was like, wow, this is not good. And that was a Saturday morning. I remember that because I didn't have to rush back to work. And I was taking vitamin C, zinc. The one thing I forgot is I left my ivermectin at my sister's house. And I should have gone out and bought some. But so I didn't take the ivermectin and I went downhill the next. I remember I was really sick for about 3 or 4 days, and then I started coming back. And I was like, okay, good, the immune system's working. And then it was like a dead cat bounce. It came up, and then boom. And that was right at the beginning of April. And I was literally 4 or 5 weeks. I could barely get out of bed. And, you're in a foreign country, right? And how bad is it going to get? And I pretty much will grit my teeth through anything. If I have to crawl, I'll crawl. So, okay, Amy. And you too. Thanks for joining. I forget what I was saying, but anyways, so when I finally started recovering, well, I was a mess physically. Atrophy, man, I'll tell you, when you lay in bed for 3 days a week, 4 days at a time, you get out. I was so weak. It took me 2 or 3 weeks to get. I remember going out for when I finally felt well enough to go for a long walk. Oh yeah, I'm still trading every day, man. Yeah, yeah. I set up. I anticipated what's happening right now, so I'm pretty well positioned. So I can get into those details if you're interested. But um, as far as what's coming next, that's where I find it hard to believe. I mean, everybody's like crying and whining that, oh, there's a crash. This isn't a crash. We haven't even gotten back to last year's levels. I mean, this is the funny thing. I mean, it's been a bubble. So basically, the bubble of 2023 is deflating. It's not fully deflated yet. Nvidia is still elevated. Yeah, health is everything, big fella. Hey, big fella, what's your real name? Your first name? You don't have to give me your full name. I'm just curious. But yeah, no crash, so the cash is gone. Uh, yeah, there's just too many events. You know, the U.S. dollar and the U.S. government will get away with their games until they can't. And when is that? I've said it many times. Big OLO. Okay. Big. Okay. No worries. Um, the Yeah, the U.S. will get away with this stuff until they can't. And I've said it many times. I firmly believe that that defining moment, we we never really knew what the moment was until Russia and Ukraine got into this, and then the U.S. tried to flex its muscle, and we saw what happened. It was like the bully got punched in the nose. Somebody stood up to the bully, and the bully, his magic didn't work. So you slowly, not so slowly, see the world turning against. I haven't read the news, but I did see uh, a Twitter post where I guess there was a resolution in the UN yesterday or this week where they tried to, and I don't know the specifics, they tried to get official declaration against Hamas, and I guess it was rejected by a majority of the countries. And that's what's happening. The tide is turning. After World War II, the U.S. was the only man left standing. So they were truly the in the world of the blind, they're the one-eyed man or a two-eyed man. They're the only ones who had any wealth. So that residual wealth carried them for 50 years. And now you're seeing what happens when it's the proverbial, you know, uh, what happens when you blow your trust fund. Now you got to go out and work. Yeah, well, they're already taking actions, big fella, where the problem is none of us, any of us who grew up in the Western world, Australia, Canada, United States, Europe, parts of Europe, parts of other countries that I'm not remembering, we grew up not really appreciate. Like my parents were depression children, right? They knew what pain was, economic pain, and the world was very different back then. We take so many things for granted right now that I was just telling somebody this story. What was it? I forget the incident. It will come to me. But it was, you see, when people from the United States go to other countries and they walk around like they're still in the United States, and you're in Mexico or you're in China or you're wherever, and they just can't believe that what's happening is happening because that's not what happens in their hometown. And that's what's happening in the world right now, and that's why they're getting away with it. I mean, look at the United States. The United States is a shadow of what it used to be, and people are doing nothing. Doing nothing. Majority of the people, they're like, what are we going to do? What can we do? Resist. That's the first thing you can do. Resist. Do not comply. And so when it goes down, I've seen this so many times. When this goes down, it'll be like seeing a person who's not trained in fighting get in a fight and they get demolished because they're sitting there like a lamb being eaten by a lion. They can't believe it's happening. What do I do? You die. And that's what's going to happen. The devastation in the United States. And what could happen is you could see devastation in Australia, Canada, Europe, any of these countries stupid enough. Look at Ukraine, right? I mean, sometimes you just have to use your common sense. Do not believe the rhetoric, the mainstream media. Everybody should be listening and following Gerald Celente. That's one, Gerald Celente. There's so many out there who are great. Greg Hunter's another one on USA Watchdog. Boy, there's so many good ones. As far as medical information, like Dr. Pierre Corey, he's a good one for that. But if you had to do two, is Gerald Celente and Greg Hunter's channel. Those two channels will help you get the real news, the real story of what's going on. Hey, Chris, how you doing? And I said this to Dan, oh boy, 10 years ago maybe. It's got to be 10 years ago. And worry about your own inner circle. Your own inner circle. That's all that matters, big fella. Your own inner circle. I don't know if you have siblings. I don't know if you have children, wife, or parents, whoever, and close friends. Those are the people you worry about. Pretend you're on the Titanic and you know that sucker is going down. You only had one objective. If you were on the Titanic and you knew ahead of everybody else that ship was going down, you had one objective. Get on a lifeboat. Yeah, I think Dan's good. He's not. Maybe he'll come on and I'll let him speak for it. Who knows? He does his thing. I do mine. And whoever you had to punch, kick, bribe, whatever it took, you had to get on that lifeboat, or you froze to death. You're dead. That's why, they were locking the fifth class people down below, because they're like, hey, you're fifth class, you don't get in the lifeboat. That's what they'll do. They'll lock you to drown. And that's what they're doing right now. I mean, unfortunately, we do not have people with any intestinal fortitude, any fiduciary responsibility where they live up to their oath, where they're going to look out for the people that they're charged with looking out for. That's why our politicians are all multimillionaires, because they're not looking out for you. They're looking out for them. That's why I mean, I used to joke, my retirement plan will be to become a United States Senator. The Diane, as Gerald Celente says, the Diane not so Feinstein retirement plan. Mine, 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 mine. And the one who just retired, the House Speaker there, Nancy Pelosi, they're all criminals. And this jerk, Johnson, who just became Speaker, the first thing I'll do is take care of Israel. Really? Hey, man, he just told you he's a criminal. He just told you he's a treasonist. Somebody should have arrested him or shot him. Well, I shouldn't say that, but somebody should have basically, but the criminals are in charge. And that's the thing to remember. The criminals are 100% in charge right now. Evil, the Bible will tell you this. The devil, the earth is the devil's playground. Evil controls earth. That's why we have free will, free choice. It's our test. We have the freedom to say yes, and we have the freedom to say no. And there's consequences with every choice we make. Yeah, Gerald Celente, I'm telling you, and I'm surprised they haven't taken him out yet. You'll see him in a lot of my old videos. I think Gerald Celente definitely helped wake me up because I was so busy running a business and trying to survive. I was literally working 100 hours a week for years, decades, and I didn't have time for anything. And then I'll never forget, I went to China in 2007 with my dad, and oil was going to, I think, $150. And I remember we were in this tour group, and I was given the financial update on the bus every day, and it was all, I was the youngest one. It was like a senior citizen tour, and my father was able to bring me because he said that he needed my assistance physically, which was a lie, but hey, I got to go. And but it was a great, awesome trip. And I remember I got back, and then the financial crash happened in 2008, and that's when I knew. And then I started looking into like 9/11, and Building 7 is what got me. You see the BBC saying, "We just received word that Building 7 just collapsed," and Building 7's like right over her shoulder. Now how? Come on, people. Hello. And the problem is when you see it, you can't unsee it. And so people refuse. They're like, nah, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Stick my head in the sand. You know, I subscribed to Trends in the Journal for a couple of years. And when he had it, and I should send him an email because he's always like, look, we have 5,000 pages and there's no advertisements. The problem is it's too much now. With everything I have to do, I don't have time to read 100 pages. And he's like, well, just go to they have a highlighted area. He should have an executive form. Like if you're an executive in a company, like any of these companies, they're not diving in the minutia. They get a summary page, bullet points, boom, 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 boom. That gives them the update in like 5 minutes. And then if they want to delve into something deeper, then they can call up their guy in that department and get more information and have a meeting on that. But executives don't have time for this. And it's the same thing with Gerald Celente. He should have an executive page where he puts the most important top 10 or top 5 things that you need to know. That's what he should do. Because he'll come out now and be like, I warned you 10 years ago or 5 years ago or a year ago. And you'll be like, yeah, but it's like the trick lawyers use in depositions where they send a million documents because they don't think you'll find the one that you're actually looking for. That's how they try to hide. You know. more scumbags, the games they play. Yeah, it's just, yeah, Gerald Salente, he is the real deal. And, every time he has a peace rally, it's always when I'm out of the country, and last year he had a peace rally, and it was the day before I was getting on a plane to Ireland. And I'm thinking to myself, do I drive down to New York and then I have to come all the way back up to Boston like that night to be on a plane at 5 in the morning? And if I was 30, I would have done it. But at 50, nope, I can't do it. I mean, if it was life or death, I could do it. But I just was like, if I get in a car accident, if I blow a tire, there's so many things that could happen. And then, if I was alone, then maybe. But, I had already committed to Tilo that I was going to meet him there. And so I just couldn't take the chance. And it's unfortunate because, Scott Ritter was there. Judge Napolitano was there. Some others were there. I'm not sure if RFK was there. And nobody goes to these things. So you have a chance to meet Gerald Salente. I mean, a couple hundred people, you can go right up and say, hey, Gerald, thank you very much, And Gerald, thank you very much. I know people will get on you about certain things, but, you definitely put your money where your mouth is and try to help people. And I am eternally grateful for that. And I've talked to Dan about this. I mean, so far, there's been really no reward. There's been no reward for being awake. Because, in fact, it almost might be the opposite. It's like people who prepare too early, they start to doubt themselves and be like, well, maybe I'm wrong. And then a certain percentage of them sell their gold and silver. They stop preparing. They stop believing. And that's usually when it happens. So it's definitely coming. And when the BRICS say no more, no mas, it's over. It's over. And it's like any good strategy. If you're in a fight with somebody, if you're in a war with somebody, and you saw your enemy cutting their own throat, are you going to stop them? No. Let them keep going. Stand there, watch, wait, prepare. And that's what they're doing. They look at what the United States and England and all these other countries are doing, and they're like, they can't believe their good fortune at how criminal. Because what's happening is you have the reason this is happening. It's very simple. The people who have the high level view, the people at the top, who are in positions to look down and see everything, who aren't fighting every day on a treadmill to survive, they know what's coming. So what they're doing, and Dan does this pretty well, they're like these squirrels, and they're trying to take as much as they can. They're trying to take as much as they can while they can. And that's why you see what you see. I mean, you see this money. It's a disguise. It's like $1,000 hammers, right? They weren't paying $1,000 for hammers. They were paying $1 for the hammer, and they're taking $999 and putting it into their black ops fund. Well, big fella, it really doesn't matter. If you're spiritually prepared, I care, but I don't care, because the bottom line is this is where you have to decide where your limitations are and what your capabilities are. And I know for me, I'll never forget, Me, Dan, and one of his good friends named Todd. We'd gone out, it was either Friday or Saturday night. We'd gone out into Boston, party at the clubs. And back then, when you're young, you eat all the time. So it was 2 or 3 in the morning, and the IHOP was open, which is like 10 miles the wrong direction. But, we're in the IHOP, and it's packed because everybody who goes clubbing, they go out to eat afterwards. And I was getting ready to ship out. I had joined the Marine Corps. And Todd looks at me and goes, What are you thinking, man? What are you thinking? I was like, and I gave him my reason. He's like, do you really want to die for these gong show losers? And you look around at all the freaks. We're there too. You look at all the freaks out at 2 in the morning. And we all started laughing and that was 40 years ago, 30, whatever it was. I still remember that night because it resonated with me. And it always made me doubt. And you never want to die for the wrong reasons. As Nathan Hale says, you have but one life to live. And I don't think people really think about this too. And that's why your inner circle is something that you have more control over. As far as the United States, it's gone, man. It's the Titanic. It's the Titanic. Don't worry about it. It's gone. That's why I just said, you have to come to this. I already, in my mind, I already know what's coming. So I'm not crying for the Titanic. It's gone. My objective is to get myself and my inner circle into a lifeboat, whatever that takes. And I'm pretty good when I put my mind to something. Why do you keep saying that, man? It's you're going to be dead soon enough, man. Don't wish for it. Instead, you should be looking. Let's say you're right. Let's say, that's why I was saying the other story before. That's why I was traveling when I was traveling, because I knew what was coming. It's like somebody in the dead zone who can see the future, but that's not what's here now. And there's still enough to grasp onto and enjoy in this life while we have it. And a revolution's not going to come inside the United States or inside any of these Western countries. It's going to collapse. And it's going to collapse when the BRICS say, okay, we're ready, game over. And it's going to happen so fast, it's going to take most people's breath, like I said. No, I disagree completely. I mean, if there's a nuclear war, it's a dead world. I don't think we're going to have a nuclear war. Me personally, don't see it. There may be certain skirmishes, and it's kind of like worrying about things that you don't need to worry about, because if it goes to an all-out nuclear exchange, well, it's not even worth putting that on your playbook, because who cares at that point? Because you better be spiritually ready at that point. Yeah, I choose to believe that there will be pockets in the world someplace that will allow you to live a good life. I don't think it will be the United States. I've been saying for decades, if you read the Plato's Five Regimes, I think it's called Five Regimes, and I read it, and I think he's right, and it's what I alluded to earlier. When you're in a quote unquote democracy, you get lulled into, it's there's another great saying where soft times make soft men, and soft men make hard times, and hard times make hard men, right? It's like a full cycle. Everything's a cycle. Yeah, I can't say you're wrong, big fella, but it's kind of like what I was saying before. That's like step 3 or step 4. Right now, in my opinion, the only thing we should be worrying about, and this is on a video I basically helped wake Dan up. Dan was like oblivious. And I kept driving home to him, and that's another story for another day. He still refuses to believe certain things, And I've been saying for over 10 years, you have to put your time, your money, your resources, your energy into going out, putting your boots on the ground, doing the recon, doing the work, in finding that place. And is it going to buy you 50 years? I don't know. Might buy you 10. And that's why I believe if you believe that you are on the Titanic, if you believe the Titanic is mortally wounded, then you're not worried about your bank account in New York. You're not worried about missing your golf event next Saturday. You're worried about getting on the freaking lifeboat. That is all that matters. That's my opinion. And you have to decide what that plan means for you. Because it might be different than mine. And the other thing is, I have shared all of this with my close friends and my family. And 90% of them are going to ignore you. They're going to ignore you. And that's okay, because that's their life. But again, remember I talked about fiduciary responsibility and due diligence, all this. I did what I had to do. And that's all I can do. And then I just have to worry about what I can control. Hence the serenity prayer. Yeah, of course it's changing. Yeah, I mean, and it's been changing for a long time. But it really, 9/11 is when it became, anybody who was just, 9/11, how stupid do you have to believe any of the official narrative on that? I saw a news article that George Bush threw out the first pitch of the World Series last night, and he got a standing ovation. That's all you need to know about the United States, folks. George Bush is a criminal. He's a criminal. Yeah, I still chuckle at that 30 years later, Amy. It's so true. Now, whenever I'm in certain situations, I look around and I think, gone, she'll loser. And I do. I start laughing to myself. And that's the thing, big fella, is you need to you need to let this go. You need to start reciting the Serenity Prayer and the Lord's Prayer every day, man. Lord's Prayer, Serenity Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Dear Lord, please grant me the serenity to accept those things that I cannot change, the courage and the strength to change those things that I can, and the wisdom, sweet Jesus, the wisdom to know the difference. That is what you need. If you don't do the work, you won't get the results. And if you weren't on when I was telling the story, I get frustrated sometimes because it's not coming to me in the time frame that I want it, and it doesn't always operate on our time frame. And you can't lose sight that of that fact. It will happen when it's going to happen. Until then, your job is to prepare, to be ready. That's it. Yeah, sure, crime pays until it doesn't. Won't pay for you and me. Will pay for George Bush, but it won't pay for you and me. We'll pay for Sam Bankman fraud. Big fella, you can change things. You can. And I don't want to hurt your feelings here, but it starts in the mirror, man. You can make radical changes right now. And that's the epiphany I had in the church. The direction I got was to take radical change. Didn't say simple change. Didn't say easy change. Didn't say pleasant change. How? You have to pray. Use those prayers I just recited. It will come to you. God will give you direction on his time frame. Have faith. And the other thing you can do, big fella, that's, again, I just alluded to that. It's the wrong question. You're on the Titanic. You're not worrying about how do I make the world better. You're worried about how the fuck do I get off this boat alive? That's what you're worried about. You need to recite those prayers, man. If you don't ask God and the universe for assistance, it will never come. It will never come. It's okay to ask. It's okay to tell God that you have no idea what's going on and you need help. Because compared to him, we are weak. And but the one thing you can do every day, do something that makes you grateful, that makes you enjoy your life. I don't care if it's an ice cream cone. In Australia, just getting outside, walking outside should be enough, right? Instead of getting slammed to the ground. No, it's the Serenity Prayer, big fella. It's called priorities. You're just big fella, and I'm just David Dawei. We're nobody as far as the big picture. The world will continue without us. So don't try to fix something that you can't fix. It's a waste of your time and your energy. That's why I don't run for political office, because that would be a complete waste of my time and energy. Tick, 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 tick. That tick, that time will never be here again. Never be here again. Big fella, I'm telling you, man, you're going down the wrong path. You ever see the Poseidon Adventure, the movie? With Gene Hackman, 1972, I think, 74, 73, somewhere in that range. There was a scene. Now, he was actually in the movie, he was a preacher. So the boat, Poseidon Adventure, it's a luxury cruise liner, gets hit by a wave, capsizes, and now the boat's upside down in the water, and it's basically a race for survival. How do you get out of a boat that's capsized? That's underwater, basically. You know, they don't have windows in the bottom of the boat. So Gene Hackman's leading one group, and they come across this other group, and Gene Hackman's like, no, you got to go to the stern, the back of the boat. Got to go to the back of the boat. That's where we'll be rescued. And the other group's like, no, that's underwater. That's underwater. You got to go to the front. And Gene Hackman's like, no, that's wrong. So this is what happened. This is what's happening in our world right now. This is why you can't listen to too much information, because it's the law of three. It's what I tell Dan all the time. In marketing, they know this. If you give anybody too many choices, you know what they choose? Zero. They choose none of the above, because they're like, if you want Coke, Pepsi, tea, blah, 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 blah. People are like, I don't know. So that's why you just have to focus on what's at hand. So anyways, Gene Hackman's like, if you go to the front of the boat, you're going to die. That's all I'll say. And he said, okay, let's go. And that's what you have to do. Now, could Gene Hackman have been wrong? Yeah. Could I be wrong? Yeah. Could you be wrong? Yeah. But that's what we have to do. I personally believe, maybe I'm insane, I personally believe that, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I think this is a path. And I truly believe that I can point to so many examples of so many things I've wanted in my life that I just couldn't achieve, or couldn't acquire, or couldn't go to. And now my attitude is, while I'm still disappointed, it's still a little sad that I can't quite reach that. I've learned to let it go. And instead, go down the path I'm supposed to go down. And if that doesn't make sense, then I don't know what to say. That's where I'm telling you, folks, you find what works for you. What works for me are those two prayers. And also Proverbs 3, book 3, verse 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Those are scary words, man, because we want to believe that we have the power. You want to believe, big fella, that we have the power to fix that hole. We don't. We don't. And I've said this in a video a while back. There is a possibility, because none of us know the future, and this might be my path. There is a possibility that when it all falls apart, at some point there will be a revolution or a rebuilding or whatever. And if that's my calling, then that's where I'll go. I will fight that fight if that is what I'm supposed to do. Like Peter when he was leaving Rome. I think it was Peter. And God stopped him and said, you got to go back to Rome. He didn't sit there saying, oh, but I don't want to go. He said, yes, Lord, I'm going. And this is Peter. He knew Jesus Christ. He went back to Rome, and if I remember correctly, he was crucified, and he told them, I'm not Jesus Christ. You will not crucify me. So they crucified him on an inverted cross, upside down. They say that's a pretty bad way to go, being crucified. Big fella, is it possible? Sure, but you're ignoring the beginning of the Bible, human nature. That's why Earth is the devil's playground. It's not in human nature. There's a certain percentage of people who are evil, and another percentage of people who are ignorant, and they're like little animals. Mine. It's never going to change. Look at world history. It's never going to change. And if you want to try to do that, it's the movie Gladiator, right? Russell Crowe. Joaquin Phoenix kills his father. He's now king. If Russell Crowe had just kissed that guy's ring, took his retirement, and went off and lived his life, would that have changed the world? But, hey, he did what he had to do. He couldn't bend the knee. And his son and his wife got raped, tortured, and killed. And then he ended up dying as well. That's what his path was. That's what he had to do. So be it. You have your path. I have my path. Amy has her path. Dan has his path. Chris has his path. Ryan has his path. In the end of the day, none of this will matter. Walk through the graveyards. All of those people had the same fears, the same desires, same ambitions, same wants, same needs, and they're gone. Some of them most of them are dead longer than they're alive now. And so will we. So the most important thing you can do is prepare yourself spiritually and control. I mean, I'm not going to say I don't care about the world, but it's like thinking about, I was going to say a joke, but it's thinking about Pluto or Uranus. I was going to say but it's like those are too big of concepts for me to grasp. My pea brain can't wrap my arms around that. But I can wrap my arms around my friends, my family, and my duty and my responsibilities that I've given my oath and my word to. That's why I put out those videos. And I try to control, like for me, to try to help people in something, like in something that I'm not competent in doing. That's why I put out those videos about the stock market last month, because that's something that I'm pretty familiar with at this point, and hopefully I can help people there. And that's why I'm doing these videos here. Maybe somebody will hear me, maybe they won't, but I'm doing my due diligence. I'm doing what I think is the right thing to do. Just like Gerald Celente is. Gerald Celente has woken up a lot of people. And I'm not Gerald Celente, but this is my attempt. So I'm done talking. So if anybody wants to come on and talk, there's a link at the top of the comments. There's a link. I'll put it in again here. If you want to join, you can click that link to come on live. You have to use Chrome, I believe, as the operating system. Or if anybody has any questions, comments, keep them coming. And I don't disagree with what you're saying, big fella. It's like trading, right? Anything is possible. But are you going to put your money, you're going to go into the casino and put all your money on green 00 and letting it spin? I don't think so. Big fella, hey, please do me a favor. Yeah, well, you're welcome anytime. You just let me know when you want to come on, and I'll make sure that I make myself available. Do me a favor though. Recite before you go to bed. Recite those 2 prayers, and pray to God for guidance and assistance. And I think you will get it. Maybe not tonight. Keep asking. That's why I came where I am right now. I got a message to come here. And is there a big voice in the cloud saying, David? Yes, Lord. No. But it's like meditating. I mean, you know when you're being communicated with. You just have to listen. Good. Thank you. Thank you. And I pray for you, big fella, that you'll find that peace, because I was in your shoes, man. I was in your shoes several years ago, 10 years. And it took me a long time to learn to let go and just control what I can control. And the rest is up to God, as they say. Try those prayers. Go back and try them. I won't sue you if you use my version of the Serenity Prayer. I changed it. Yeah. I don't sue anybody if they use my stuff. So. Yeah. It was a beautiful morning here. Sometimes there's rain, sometimes it's clear. There's rain every day here. It rains. You don't know if it's the morning. Preferably, it's at night when I'm asleep, because then I can go out walking. Here, I'll show you guys real quick. This is the beauty of a laptop. I showed it earlier, but I'll show it again. This is the river from Romancing the Stone that goes to the waterfall. I love the sound of water. They say it's very good for meditation and healing, and mental welfare. And then you have all the creeps out now, the freaks. It's approaching the day. Oh, provecho. Yeah. So you'll see these people popping up. Hello. Up here where they have the creeps. Muchas gracias. So restaurants, stores, they'll have these people greeting you as you walk in. You know, China has Tomb Sweeping Day. And we have Day of the Dead, right, as well, All Saints Day. Used to be called, I'm pretty sure it used to be called Day of the Dead. And now it's All Saints Day. And in Mexico, it's called Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. Hey, big fella, you do whatever you think is what you should be doing is the right answer. It's the right answer. Hopefully it's the right choice. But it's not easy, man. It's not easy. And, you know, I look back at my parents and, you know, like I posted some photos from a while back on Instagram and yeah, it's a lot easier to keep your head in the sand because think about it. I mean, if you ignore all the pain and everything out there, well, then you're ignorant to it. And you won't know the difference until the boat goes under. And then you're dead. Proverbially. So, yeah. So we'll see. Yeah, I really like this place. If it didn't rain here every day, yeah, well, you know, it's when I was younger, I know this sounds crazy. I've talked about this before. I really thought I was Superman. Not physically like I could fly, but I thought I could do anything. And you know, part of me still thinks I can. And it's dangerous because as you get older, you know, it's like Dan last year started. You know, Dan's my age, and Dan's like fighting MMA, fighting somebody like half his age. He's going to get killed. And the guy was like 50 pounds heavier than him and 5 inches taller. He's an idiot. And the next day he's like, oh, I don't know why I'm hurting. Why? Really? You don't know why? Let me give you one guess. We're our own enemies. We're our own worst enemies. And I'm my own worst enemy. And it's you just have to keep that in mind. You have to keep that in mind. And hey, if I pulled out the list of all the things that I've failed in and didn't live up to my expectations, would be here a long time, and I'd be reduced to tears. First line of the Serenity Prayer. Dear God, please grant me the serenity, the peace, to let it go, And I still think of this because every day something happens, especially when you trade. Every day something happens where it didn't go like I wanted it to go. And and when I say the Serenity Prayer, I'm like, okay, I have another thing to add to my list to let go. Anybody who watches baseball, I used to when I was younger, I don't anymore, but they have what are called relief pitchers. Pitchers who come in and relieve the starting pitcher. And a lot of times they'll come in and they'll get bombed. They'll perform horribly. And then they have to come out the next day and pitch again. And they say that a relief pitcher needs a short memory because you can't remember yesterday. And it's a valuable lesson. Yeah, amigo. Hey, I wish you the best. I know you're a good man. Your heart's in the right place, and there's a way to use that energy. But one thing just before you go, you ever hear those people who say, "Oh, you can take these little tea candles and you can heat up a whole room with just a tea candle"? No, you can't. No, you can't. And what they'll do is they'll take those ceramic pot plants and they'll put it under, and that's enough heat to like heat up the potting plant. And they're like, oh, it becomes little heaters. A watt of energy or joule of energy, energy is that will heat up a certain amount of space, just like our energy. Now, occasionally there are people like JFK or George Washington or Napoleon or Hitler, good and bad. There are certain individuals who have a certain amount of energy where they're able to change at a massive scale. But most of us can't. And that's okay. But you can control yourself, and you can influence those you love, those you care about, and those you're responsible for. Just as importantly, if you're running a company, you're the president of a bank, you're fixing people's cars. There's a lot you have to be responsible for. So, yeah. Enjoying my cold coffee. You've tried what? Which part? See, I have such a short memory now. It goes in and out. My siblings get very angry at me. They'll be like, and my friends, they'll be like, hey, remember that time? I'll be like, no. And they'll be like, want to rip my face off. I'm like, refresh me. And then they refresh me. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, I remember now. So, well, okay. I don't have anything else to say. I think I'm going to get another cup of coffee. I pretty much did all my work last night, so I don't even have to work today. I don't think. I'm pretty much set up for next week. Yeah, this is yeah, I don't disagree with you, big fella. But best line of any movie ever. Clint Eastwood, Magnum Force, I think it's 1973. The end of the movie, Dirty Harry, a man has got to know his limitations. And I don't know how old are you, big fella? I assume you're I get the feeling you're around my age. Can you at least give me your age? Big? Can you give me your age, Big? Ballpark. Don't have to give me your birth date and your social security. the what the hell was I just saying? Oh my God. Wow. Just went middle age. Are you younger than me? Yeah. Are you younger than 50 or older 50? Yeah. Well, regardless of what the number is, at some point, some people are very lucky. Like, the lucky people, maybe they're 20, where when you put yourself through the fire, and that could be through physical or mental training. I mean, even like 40s, yeah. Well, you're old enough to understand this then, I think. Not all 40-year-olds. My father used to say this to me sometimes when I would get these resumes of people who were sending in applications, and I'd talk to him about it and would laugh. I know. But like these people would be like 40 years old, and they've been in like the same job, and it's like they have 1 day or 1 week of experience, like for 40 years. So they really don't have new experience. They just know how to do this one thing over and over again. But that's a diatribe. But through trading, like really learning to trade and doing trading, people who trade professionally, you have to be emotionally and mentally strong. You have to, it is, unless you have some sort of edge, like for people like normal people, man, it's like running the gauntlet. It is not easy. And whatever it is in your life, there's been something, sometimes death, losing people you love, breakups. Usually, what do they say? We usually learn more through our failures than our successes. It's probably true, because it forces us to re-examine, okay, that's painful. I don't like pain. How do I avoid pain? I didn't like touching that oven. And so that line for Dirty Harry, a man has got to know his limitations. And a man could be a woman. Only by testing ourselves do we learn. I just reached out to Jim Willie, and we touched base. To make a long story short, I could have him on tomorrow. The problem is, I have to compensate Jim Willie for his time, right? He's not going to come on for free, so I have to pay him, money. And I don't make money doing this. And so I'm really not, with the changes I've had going on, I'm on life support myself. So I don't know where I'm going to be next year. So, I like Jim. I think he's very entertaining. I think he's a character. And I listen to some of the things he has to say. I still love his story about the Scheist dollar. But, unless it was going to be crowdfunded, I'm just not going to pay $300-500, whatever the money is, to bring him on for video. That actually, the Jim Willie videos actually got me banned from YouTube. And I had to actually pull almost all the videos and put them over on Rumble. Yeah. And YouTube gave the channel back. In fact, I think they might be ready to pull the channel again, because I got some other videos pulled. So that's why I don't have Jim on. I still chat with him, message, but I don't bring him on because that's his business. I mean, his business is to do YouTube videos and put out his. That's how he makes his money, man. And he makes his money through donations. So if people don't support him, then he doesn't eat. So, yeah, for most people, if you rely on YouTube or online for your money, most people are hurt if they're relying on that. It's not a good career goal unless you're like Bambi with the 36 Ds. But most middle-aged men forget about it. So I hope that answered your question, Golden. That is the brutal, honest answer. And Jim isn't going to do it for free. And why should he? Right? Why should he? Who am I? Oh, por favor, gracias. Gracias, Sebastian. Another coffee is coming. I usually have two, long time ago. Yeah, okay, amigo. Yeah, I told the story before where I used to be, oh boy, how do I phrase this in 30 seconds? There's no doubt that in my genes, there's a tendency for addiction. And I can say this now because she's, my mother had, when she was, she grew up in a time where, they smoked and they drank. If you look at like the 1950s, what did people do? Everybody smoked and drank. That's what they did. That's why people, like, when they're in their 40s, they look like they were like 75. Because they didn't know how to take care of themselves back then. Eat right? They didn't know what that meant. Gracias. They were just fortunate back then that, food was real food back then. At least they had that. Today, I'm not even sure food is real. So, but, yeah. Cheers. But I remember I was in China. I had taken, it's a haul to go there, and then I had to connect 2 planes to get to this small it's not small city. No city in China is small. But I was going to meet Ting Ting. And I ended up getting to Guiyang. And I remember I got off the plane. I hadn't slept for like 24 hours. So we went to the hotel, placed our stuff, and it was daytime. So we went out and we enjoyed the day. And then went back. I got some sleep. And then the next day we went out the next day. And then the next night, we were taking an overnight train to Kunming. And I love the overnight trains. It's great because then you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It's a hotel and a transportation. You wake up, you're there. So it's awesome when you're trying to be efficient with your time. So I remember we were going into the train station, and I had an awful migraine and nauseous. And I'm like, oh no, am I getting sick? And I'm starting to think, running down the checklist of where I could have gotten sick. And then I'm like, I haven't had coffee for 2 days. So I'm carrying the bags. And I said, hey, Ting Ting, hey, can you go into there's a fun trivia fact. The largest fast food chain in China is KFC. So they're everywhere, especially at train stations. So we were going into the train station, and I said, hey, can you do me a favor and get me a small coffee? And she brought it back and drank the coffee, and 20 minutes later, back to normal. And I was like, I turned to her and I go, hello, I'm David, and I'm an addict. She's like, what? I was like, that's how they start AA, Alcoholic Anonymous, is you're like, hi, I'm Bruce, I'm an alcoholic, or hi, I'm Joe, I'm a cocaine addict, whatever they do. And that's when I realized I was an addict. And when I got back, I made a concerted effort. I weaned off the coffee. I went down. I tried to. My older sister, who's a doctor, she's like, "You're insane." I went cold turkey. I gave it up. And the next day, I'm like, ugh. Or 2 days later, I had to go back on the coffee. So I then went down to, I started giving up. I think I was drinking at that time, like, because all I was doing was working back then. I think I was drinking like eight or 10 cups a day. So I went down to like 4 cups and then 3 and then 2. Within a month or 2, I was off coffee. And then I was off coffee for a good 6 months. And then I went out to a restaurant and I had a cup of coffee and it was so enjoyable. I'm like, I think I can drink coffee responsibly. So I'm not sure I can. So this is cup number 2. And I know I'm addicted again because if I don't have my coffee, I feel like I have that sleep hangover where I'm a little, feel like I have a towel over my head. And when I have my coffee, all of a sudden I'm like Superman. Oh! So maybe I'll go back. But I've thought about this, and I mean, yeah, it's an addiction, and yes, it's not good when your body reacts like that because it is a drug. But I'm willing to live with that failure because I do enjoy the coffee. It's one of my few pleasures that I treat myself to. But I try to have no more than 3 cups a day. So I'll typically have 2 in the morning, and then the OXXO here, which is like the Mexico's version of 7-Eleven. The OXXO has a special on Monday, Wednesday, Friday where you get the coffee at like half off. So I have my own coffee cup, and I go in, I'm like, Cafe Americano Relleno, por favor, refill. So I get it for like $1 or 50 cents, whatever it is. So on that day, I'll have 3 cups because I'll get that, and then I'll take that on my walk. But the coffee here is, even though the guy who owns this restaurant and the hotel, he has a coffee farm, the coffee here is terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I drink it to get my fix. Well, thank God my mother's was a nurse and my sister's a doctor. So anything medical, biology I thought was an interesting topic, but I was terrible at it. Chemistry I'm very good at. So I can't tell you what the vagus nerve is, Golden, sorry. But I'll have to take your word for it. It definitely, I can tell you on mornings where I know I'm going into battle trading, and I need to be like the point of the spear. I need to be on my A game. I'll drink coffee. I'll drink something because I need to be like, I need to go. And this helps. This helps. So I use it. So, but other drugs, that's why I don't dabble in other drugs because I know like food, right? Food is another drug that I've struggled with at times. Even alcohol at times. Alcohol, thank God, alcohol is something where I do drink alcohol occasionally, but I've always been able to reach the point where I'm like, nope, I'm done. And thank God I've been able to reach that point. Thank God that I've had that ability. I think all of us have that where we get to the point where like, nope, no mas. Hopefully I don't have to hit rock bottom. Yeah, Cliff High, I've got to look at Cliff High. I don't think he does videos on YouTube or Rumble. So I've lost track of him. He is definitely a character, that guy. Um, he's lived and died a couple times, I think. Yeah, I'll look it up. But yeah, but food. The other thing is food. There are certain foods I'll eat. Like if I'm on an empty stomach and I eat anything sweet, I will. It's like putting. It's like I swallow gasoline, and when it hits my stomach, it's a flame, and all of a sudden I just feel like this flame, like, and all of a sudden I'm like, I have to. Oh, he's on BitChute. I'll have to look him up. I'm gonna make a mental note here. Um, I haven't listened to anything he said probably a year, but 3 times. Yeah, yeah. No, that dude's something else. Yeah, it's easy to appreciate it, but when you're going through it, sometimes the easiest thing to do is lay down and die. And either you make that's your makeup or it's not. With Cliff High, obviously it's not. That guy's gonna fight till the very last. But yeah, I have to get up and I have to move. Otherwise, that energy, that fire will be like very uncomfortable feeling. So anytime I have anything sweet, it has to be like after I've eaten. Otherwise, this way you have to know your body. And you have to know yourself with anything in life. And you have to know, like I was just saying before, you got to know your limitations. We all have them. And to not be cognizant of them, to not be aware of them, well, you're setting yourself up for failure. So, so wow, I've been sitting here for 2 hours. Holy cow. I can't believe it. Well, folks, uh, the moon, well, the moon definitely has an impact. Absolutely. That is, if I had like unlimited money and I didn't have to worry about putting my time and energy into those endeavors, I think something that would be pretty interesting is getting into researching the astronomy. Because if you go around Mexico and other ancient cultures, it's they're all linked to astronomy. Now, maybe it's because that was their way to try to understand what was going on in the universe. That's what they turned to. But it's amazing how accurate supposedly they were in a lot of their science back then. Oh, Timeless covered a lot. A lot of information, I think. So, but if anybody has any topics, any questions, anything that they want to discuss before we end it here, now's the time. Is there anything going on in the world that we should be aware of besides? Well, I just saw some pictures about Gaza. That's pretty terrible. I don't know if it's true or not. I saw a video online of the attack, and I'm surprised they put this online. But there was this big guy, not fat, but looked like he was a big, tall guy, and he was kind of like jogging, and they had his face blurred out, and you couldn't see anything in the background. It was a security camera, but all of a sudden, he wasn't running fast. He was literally jogging. If I had guys with rifles in back of me, I would be running as fast as I could. And if this was as fast as this guy could run, he didn't look that old. He looked like he was late 20s, early 30s. Maybe he's physically deficient. I don't know. But he's dead. He's definitely dead now, because all of a sudden it showed him just face plant, and then blood come out on the sidewalk. And these Hamas guys, all of a sudden you see a squad of guys in fatigues come into view in the security camera, and you see one of the guy go pump pump, and you see the body get hit a couple times. And this was from like 20, 30 meters away. And so you know that they are proficient with their weapons, that they're hitting human beings, a relatively small target, especially when it's prone on the ground. This guy had already been hit, and then he basically put 2 more shots on the guy and finished him off. And do not believe, this is the other thing that, like in the United States, I hear people tell me, oh, the Chinese army, they're a joke. Oh, the Hamas, they're a joke. Oh, Hezbollah, they're a joke. Oh, we'll wipe them out. These are guys who have never trained, have no experience. They are not a joke. I have a little bit of experience with some guys in the Chinese military. They're not a joke, man. They're not a joke. These guys are trained. They're proficient. They're in great shape. And now today, back in Korean War, they used human waves that sent 100,000 guys. A lot of them didn't have shoes or rifles. They'd pick up weapons of people who were dead. They'd use swords or clubs. And we couldn't defeat them then. Now they have technology. I just saw a video where they had this drone, and they have cluster bombs on this drone, and they come around and they drop these bombs, and it's a cluster bomb. And so they'll drop it right on troops, and cluster bomb, I mean, they'll wipe out hundreds at a time. So typically when you're in formation, you're spaced out in certain formations to prevent damage when you face the enemy. You know, if you're clustered, you know, one bomb, one artillery shell, one machine gun can take everybody out. That's why you space. But if you have a drone and it's using computers to deliver, yeah, I'll tell you, it's not going to end well. So, boy, I really need to get a haircut. I haven't had a haircut in 3 months. Look at that. Woo-wee. Wow. Yeah, I have a place in Mexico City I go to, so at this point, instead of walking into a little hole in the wall here, I'll probably just wait till I go back to Mexico City next week and go to the girl there. And then if she cuts it poorly, then at least I know I'm cutting my hair poorly. But I don't worry about that. They cut it off, it will grow back in a couple months. So, yep. But that's it. So I have nothing else to say really on any of the topics. People here are preparing for the Day of the Dead. You can see they're hanging up. They're hanging up. I don't know what marigolds. I think I already showed the river. Beautiful river here. And then they hang up all these decorations for celebration. Yeah, a bunch of young kids are the waiters and waitresses here. This kid right here, he just finished veterinary school. His father has a cattle ranch here. So his father's like, son, you're going to veterinary school so you can take care of our cows. That's what he does. But he's still working here. I don't think the father pays him. But obviously they'll probably inherit the ranch. So it's probably an important enough reason to keep the ranch going. So a lot of ranches and farmlands around here. It's a beautiful area. And I hope gringos don't ruin it. Like when I went to the Yucatan for the first time, like 10 years ago, I was there before it exploded. I won't even go there now. Now they're adding a train for all the foreigners. Oh, boy. Yeah. I might go just, I'm not going to say I won't go, but it's not on my list to go. Go over to Cancun and Playa del Carmen and Tulum. You know, Tulum, if you've never been to Tulum, Tulum has the Mayan ruins there are spectacular, gorgeous. And the white sandy beaches, it's a gorgeous area. But the people who go to Tulum, they're scumbags. Scumbags. I hate to make a blanket statement. Obviously, they're not all scumbags. But, and so I wasn't surprised that the ghetto, the reason I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but the U.S. is a ghetto culture. It's a ghetto culture. That's not a racial statement. It's a ghetto culture. It's white, black, Hispanic. It's all. We have a ghetto culture, and that's why the United States is like this. Because the ghetto culture embraces inferiority. They embrace subpar results. They embrace shit. That's not my culture. And that's the type of people who go to Tulum. I've been there several times. Last time I was there, I was just passing through, and I could feel it. I could see the people. I was like, couldn't get out of there fast enough. It's too bad because it's a gorgeous area. Gorgeous. I mean, spectacular area. It's the people who ruin it. And, you know, Mexico has, it's a blessing and a curse. Because when the entire world was closed and Mexico was open, all these people who had no interest in Mexico, but they could go someplace, they came to Mexico. And, yeah, a lot of scumbags came here. And everything's a cycle. It will return. So you'll see people who they're making certain investment and business decisions based on the people who came to Mexico during the pandemic. And I'm telling them, do not count on that crowd. That crowd is not going to be here because either Mexico will get rid of them or they'll just leave. In fact, the Mexican peso has appreciated. When I first came to Mexico, I think the peso was either 10 or 12 pesos for a dollar. And then it got up to 25 pesos for a dollar, which was incredible because a dollar could buy a lot. And now it went back down to, I think, 16 a couple months ago. And I was reading online about a lot of Americans and foreigners who were leaving Mexico because they came here thinking it was cheap and they had no money. And now they can't even afford to live in Mexico and they're leaving. And my attitude is good riddance. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And again, what do they say? It's a general statement, but they're statements that are generally true. Nothing is 100%. But this is where you have to, this is what you learn when you become an executive or when you just get life experience. You learn that, and this is what they could call them prejudices, right? It's prejudging. And that's human existence is based on that. You have to make certain assumptions, and then people have to prove something is either false or not. In the old days, it paid to be cautious. Because in the old days, like way back when people just killed each other, bad decisions could be fatal. And we're getting to that point now where bad decisions once again will become fatal. You can see it with the bad decisions will be fatal. People make bad decisions all the time. So, all right. So, do something today, just like I told Big Fella. Do something today. Enjoy the day, whether it's as simple as having a nice cup of coffee, or a walk, or hugging somebody you love. Definitely do that. Enjoy them while they're there, while you can. Yep. God bless all the people we love. So, yeah, I'm very grateful for all the opportunities I've been given. And that's it. So, thank you for joining me. And hope everybody has a great day. Peace.